You know you're in debt. That's not the problem. The problem is that somewhere along the way, the debt stopped being a number. It became a feeling, a low hum in the back of your head that follows you into every decision you make, what you order at dinner, whether you answer the phone from an unknown number, how long you stare at your account before closing the app without doing anything. You don't need someone to tell you how much you owe. You already know. What nobody ever told you is what debt does to the person carrying it, how it changes the way you think, the way you move, the way you see yourself when no one is watching. There are 7 levels. Most people live their whole lives without understanding which one they're actually in. By the end of this, you will. Level 1, the first one, the debt that felt like progress. You remember the first time. You were young, maybe 19, maybe 22. The card arrived in the mail in a plain white envelope. Your name printed on it in raised letters. You held it and it felt like something had finally recognized you, like the world looked at you and said, "You're real now, you count." The limit was small, $500, maybe $1,000, enough to feel like freedom but not enough to be dangerous. That's what you told yourself. You were responsible. You had a plan. The first purchase was something you needed, or something that felt like you needed it, a textbook, a work outfit, a laptop. You slid the card across the counter and the machine beeped and you walked out into the sunlight holding something you hadn't actually paid for yet. That's the part nobody explains to you at 19. The machine doesn't beep differently when you're spending money you don't have. It sounds exactly the same. Within a month you made the minimum payment, $25. You felt responsible. You were managing your finances like an adult. The balance barely moved, but that wasn't the point. The point was that you were handling it. What you didn't know, what nobody sat you down and made clear, was that the minimum payment wasn't paying off the debt. It was renting the right to keep owing it. The bank wasn't offering you credit because they believed in you. They were offering it because they had done the math on you and liked the answer. At level 1, debt feels like a tool. You are in control. The number is small enough that you can look at it without flinching. And that comfort, that sense of manageability is the most dangerous thing about it. Because level 1 is not a destination. It's a door. And almost everyone who walks through it keeps walking. Level 2, the accumulation, when one becomes several. You don't decide to get a second card. It just happens. An offer in your email. A store card at checkout that saves you 15% a day. A consolidation loan that moves the first one somewhere else and somehow frees up space you immediately start filling again. Now there are 2 balances, then 3. You keep track of them all in your head vaguely, the way you keep track of things you don't want to think about directly. You know approximately what you owe. You round down without noticing. Something shifts at level 2. At level 1 you had a debt. At level 2 you have debts, plural, and plural changes everything. When there's one number you can focus on it, attack it, feel the satisfaction of watching it shrink. When there are 4 numbers you don't know where to start, so you don't start. Take the minimum on all of them, watch the interest quietly absorb most of what you paid, and tell yourself you'll deal with it seriously next month when things settle down. Next month arrives, things have not settled down, they never do. Your friends are doing the same thing. You don't know that because nobody says it out loud. At the dinner table, everyone is nodding about the economy, about how expensive everything is, and nobody is saying, "I have $14,000 across 4 cards and I haven't looked at the statements in 3 months." But they do. Most of them do. You are not the exception. You are the average. And somehow that doesn't make it feel better. It just makes the silence louder. At level 2, you are no longer in control of the debt. You are maintaining it. There's a difference. Control means you're steering. Maintenance means you're just keeping the thing running long enough to figure out what to do next. Most people spend years here, not because they're irresponsible, because nobody ever showed them what level 2 actually is, the place where debt stops being a tool and starts becoming a habit. Level 3, the rationalization, when debt starts sounding reasonable. At level 3, something quiet happens inside your mind. You stop thinking about the debt as a problem to solve. You start thinking about it as a fact of life, a condition, like weather. You didn't choose it exactly, but here it is, and everyone deals with it, and the thing to do is just move through it as comfortably as possible. This is when the language changes. You stop saying I'm in debt. You start saying I'm carrying some debt. The word carrying makes it sound temporary, manageable, like something you picked up for a short walk and will set down soon. But you've been carrying it for 2 years, 3. The walk keeps going. The destination keeps moving. You start making peace with the minimum payment. You build your budget around it the way you build a budget around rent. It's just there, a fixed cost of listing. The $340 a month that disappears into interest is no longer alarming. It's just the price of the life you're living. And then the rationalizations come. Debt is normal. Everyone has it. At least mine isn't as bad as so-and-so's. At least I have a job. At least I'm not behind on the minimums. The bar you were measuring yourself against gets lower without you noticing, because you're the one lowering it. A coworker mentions they're debt-free. They say it casually, the way you might mention you walk to work, and something inside you reacts, not with inspiration but with something harder to name. A faint irritation, a quiet assumption that it must have been luck, a gift, a partner with money, something that doesn't apply to your situation. Because if it was possible for someone like you, then why haven't you done it? You don't sit with that question long. You close it before it opens all the way. That closing, that practiced, reflexive avoidance of the real question, is level 3. It's not about the money anymore. It's about protecting a story you've built about why this is just how things are for you. Level 3 is the most dangerous level because it feels like stability. You're not drowning, you're floating. And floating feels fun until you realize you've been floating in the same spot for 4 years, and the current has been moving you in a direction you never chose. Level 4, the identity, when you stop being someone with debt and start being a debtor. There's a moment, you won't remember it clearly, when the debt stopped being something you had and became something you were. It happened slowly, and then all at once. You start making decisions based on what a person in debt does. You don't apply for the apartment you actually want because someone in your situation doesn't live in a place like that. You don't negotiate the salary because someone with your financial situation doesn't push back like that. You don't start the business because people who owe what you owe don't take risks like that. The debt has become a permission system, and the permission system is always set to no. Your social life reorganizes around it without you designing that reorganization. You stop suggesting places that feel expensive. You calculate before you commit. You feel something close to shame when the bill arrives and you're counting in your head. Not because you can't pay it, you can, barely, but because the act of counting makes you feel like the person you've been pretending not to be. You watch someone your age do something confident with money, sign a lease on a good apartment, book a flight without checking the balance first, turn down a job that didn't go right, and the distance between you and that person feels enormous, uncrossable, like they are living in a different atmosphere and you are down here in the pressure. What you don't understand yet is that the distance isn't made of money, it's made of identity. They believe they are the kind of person who can make those moves. You believe you're not. And those two beliefs produce two completely different lives from the exact same raw materials. Level 4 is where debt stops costing you money and starts costing you options. Not because the options don't exist, because you've stopped being able to see them as yours. You wake up one morning and realize you can't remember who you were before the number, before the checking, before spending, and the breath holding before the statement, and the careful math of every social situation. You can't remember what it felt like to make a decision without the debt somewhere in the room. That's the weight of level 4. It doesn't show up on any balance sheet. It shows up in the choices you quietly stop making. Level 5, the crisis, when the system breaks and you can't hide anymore. You were managing it. That's what you told yourself. Minimum payments, no catastrophes, just the steady hum of debt maintenance. And then something happened. A job disappears, a medical bill, a transmission, A month where everything landed at once and the math that used to barely work suddenly doesn't work at all. You miss a payment for the first time. Just one. You tell yourself it's a blip. You'll catch up next month. But next month the past due amount has fees attached and the interest rate has jumped, and suddenly, the payment you needed to make last month and the payment you owe this month are sitting there together, and covering both of them means not covering something else. The phone starts ringing. Numbers you don't recognize, you know what they are before you answer. You stop answering. Your credit score drops, not gradually in a step change. You check it one morning and the number has fallen far enough that several things you were planning to do become impossible. The refinance you were counting on. Consolidation loan that was going to simplify everything. Gone. Not because you're a bad person. Because one missed payment at the wrong moment told an algorithm something about you that will take years to unsay. Level 5 is not a failure of character. It is a system revealing itself. The system was always fragile. You just didn't know because nothing had tested it yet. You sit in your car in a parking lot and do the math on your phone. Not the vague math you've been doing for years. The real math. What you owe to whom, at what rate, with what consequence if you don't pay it. The number is larger than you thought. Significantly larger. Because you've been rounding down for so long that you lost track of the real number. You've been managing a number you invented. The real one has been growing quietly this whole time. You sit there for a while, the engine off, the parking lot around you full of other people going about their lives. None of them know what is on your screen. And for the first time you stop pretending it's fine, not to anyone else, just to yourself. You stop the story, you look at the number, you let it be real. That moment, that brutal, clarifying moment in a parking lot, is the beginning of the only way out of level 5. Not the money, the honesty. Level 6, the rebuild, when you stop managing debt and start killing it. Something changes after the parking lot moment. It's not dramatic. It doesn't feel like a breakthrough. It just feels like tired enough to stop running the old system. You write the number down, the real one, all of it on one piece of paper. Every card, every loan, every outstanding balance. You add them together and you look at the total for a full minute without closing your eyes or changing the subject. This is the total. This is what you owe. This is the only honest place to start. Then you do something you've never done before. You make a list that isn't about what you owe. It's about what you spend. Not what you think you spend. What you actually spend. You go through 3 months of statements, line by line, and you write it all down. What you find surprises you. Not the big things you knew about those. The small things. The subscriptions you forgot you started. The coffees that don't register as spending because they're too small to feel like a decision. The delivery fees. The impulse buys at 11 p.m. The money that left your account without you ever consciously sending it. You cancel things. Not because you're punishing yourself, because you looked at them and realized they were buying you nothing you actually needed. You pick the smallest debt. You put everything you freed up toward that one number. You watch it shrink for real this time, not by molecules, actually, visibly, substantially. The first one you pay off is a Tuesday. No one congratulates you. No one throws a party. You close the account and sit with the silence for a minute. It doesn't feel like winning. It feels like stopping. Like you've been holding your breath for years and finally, in one small area of your financial life, you exhaled. You do it again with the next one, and then the next. Level 6 is slow. It is years, not months. There are months where it gets harder and you almost go back to the old system because the old system required less from you. It asked nothing but the minimum. Level 6 asks everything. But the person who gets through level 6 is not the person who started level 1. They're not even close. They know something about money that can't be learned from a book or a course. They know it from the inside, the parking lot, from the piece of paper with the real number on it, from the Tuesday when the first account closed and the world kept moving and they realized the only applause available was their own. Level 7, the other side, what nobody told you about 0. You expected it to feel different. You expected the day the last balance hit zero to feel like something you'd recognize as a finish line, a feeling you could point to and say, there, that's what I was working toward, that's what it was all for. It doesn't feel like that. It feels quiet, ordinary. You close the app, you make coffee. The morning looks the same as every other morning. The debt is gone and the world has not reorganized itself to acknowledge that. No one calls, no one knows. The relief is real, but it's private, contained entirely inside you, invisible to everyone around you who knew nothing about the weight you were carrying. And that's when you realize something that nobody says out loud about reaching zero. Zero is not the destination. Zero is the floor. For years, you were below the floor. Every dollar you earned had somewhere to go before it could work for you. It had a prior claim, a debt it belonged to before it belonged to you. At zero, for the first time, what you earn is yours, fully, without the tax of interest, without the prior claim of someone else's balance sheet. And the person standing at zero is not who they were at level 1. At level 1, you believed debt was a tool. At level 7, you understand what that tool actually costs, not in money, though it costs that too. It costs clarity. It costs options. It costs years of decisions made from inside a permission system that was always set to no. You look at people differently now. The friend with the new car on a payment plan. The coworker who just upgraded their apartment. The person at the restaurant who orders without looking at the price. Some of them are fine. Some of them are at level 2 or 3, floating comfortably, not yet at the parking lot moment. You don't say anything. You learn not to say anything. People get to their parking lot in their own time, or they don't. What you carry out of level 7 is not money. You haven't built anything yet. That comes later, and it comes faster than you think because you now have the thing that makes building possible. Space. The margin that was eaten by interest and fees every month is yours now. The low hum is gone. The one that was always there in the background of every financial decision. The sound that followed you into restaurants and new jobs and conversations about the future. Gone. Not because you got lucky. Not because someone handed you something. Because you looked at a number in a parking lot and decided that number was the last honest thing you had, and you were going to work with it until there was nothing left to pay. Most people will never stand at level 7. Not because they can't. Because level 3 is comfortable enough. Level 4 becomes familiar, and the parking lot moment, when it comes, is easy to drive away from. You didn't drive away. That's the whole story, not the money, the choice to stay. The debt didn't define you, but deciding to face it, really face it, the real number on the real piece of paper, that defined you more than any balance ever could. You know which level you're at. You've known since the first 30 seconds of this video. The question was never the level. The question was always what you were going to do about it. That question is still open. It'll stay open until you answer it. See you in the next one.